And your presenter today is Bill Shallow, who is a consultant with the SBDC. Thank you, Bill, for sharing your insights with us today.
Thanks, Amy.
Thank you.
Thank you to everyone for taking some time today to be with us. Just a little bit about myself. I am a full-time business consultant with the Small Business Development Center. I started as a contractor working kind of part-time in this. It's been about 5 years ago. And I've been a full-time for a little over a couple of years. I guess I'd be considered to be a generalist, if you will. Some of you out there I may have worked with and some I may have not. So nice to meet you. Bulk of my career was really spent in corporate America, primarily business development. So I've been involved in some small businesses as well. So made some mistakes along the way and hopefully done some good things. So today, there was kind of two main things, if I kind of break this down into chunks was, the labor issue is an issue that's with us today, as you are all aware, and it's something that's going to continue. Even after COVID, indications are we're gonna have issues for a while. So, when I'm working with my clients, the things that I talk to them about are kind of the two things I'm going to talk to you about today would be, first of all, is, what's the operation that is of your business today, which isn't really directly related to labor, but I call it, how shiny is that penny? How are your operations looking? What's your profitability like? What are some of those key metrics that you look at? And so that first part today, we're gonna look at some numbers. I just kind of did a case study of where we can walk through some income statements essentially and look at some of those key metrics and how you can tighten those up possibly. Now keep in mind these are not going to be applicable, sorry, for to all businesses. I'm going to do this on a cafe, but if you're a service business, electrician, some of these things may not be applicable, but hopefully we're going to spur some thought amongst you and you can say, it might be a good thing to go and look at. So that's kind of more what we're looking for is just things that you can think about. Many of these things you're going to look and say, oh, already do that, and that's great. Glad you are. So there again, we want to spur some of that thought. Please send questions into Amy via chat. That'd be great, and she'll kind of fire them onto me, and we'll take them as we go, and we'll take some at the end as well. And then also keep in mind, if you're not a client of the SBDC and you would like to talk to a consultant, please sign up. Our services are all free of charge, so we definitely welcome that. If you are, with us today, then, re-engage with your consultant if you want to just brainstorm and kick the tires a little bit. And in a lot of cases, there are not, there aren't any silver bullets. We're just trying to take things as they come and try to help you through this process as much as we can. So I'm going to jump into that first slide. So I talked about that and so when I talk to clients about their business, when we look at the numbers of the business, there are there's key metrics, if you will, that I really try to hammer home, things that you really should watch. Cost of goods is a huge one. How much you're paying for those products is really a direct effect. Now, depending on what type of business it is, now in this case where we're going to do this cafe, it's a huge effect. It's really just a key driver in how successful a restaurant or a cafe is going to be. And that's usually my first question when I'm working with someone that wants to start a restaurant or it's in the restaurant. I say, well, what's your food cost? What's the percentage of revenue that you're into your food cost? If the answer is, I don't know, then that's probably not a good indicator. Many times I'll have a client that'll say, we have lots of customers. We seem like we're doing really well, but we don't seem to have any money in our checking account. So that's a key issue. Pricing is another one we'll kind of get into. And I think as you all well know, prices are increasing. So what's your strategy around pricing and how do you look at that and what you're going to do with it? It's a hard thing to do to raise prices. I'm as a small business owner myself, it's just you don't want to keep on raising prices, but it is something you got to look at. Labor, which is part of this, but what's that percentage of your revenue that's labor? And in all these there are some industry numbers or guidance, if you will, that you want to adhere to. And so those are other things that we look at. Other expenses, we'll just kind of look at, what are some of these other random fixed expenses or variables that can be adapted, possibly lowered, or maybe raised, to help drive that last bullet, which is sales. So those are kind of the key things we'll talk a little bit about as we move into this. Now, I'm going to apologize because now I'm going to show you a lot of numbers, and I'm not going to walk through these line by line, but I do want to highlight a few things, as we move along. You can look at this as a 1 month income statement or profit and loss. They're kind of an interchangeable term, on a little local cafe. Now, this cafe, if you look at that bottom line, this is a profitable cafe. It's a full service. It might be one that you would walk into in any little small town in Minnesota. It's owner operated. The owner works in the business. And so this is just a 1 month example. And so we'll do kind of some what ifs. What if this changes? What if this changes? What if this changes? What's that effect on your bottom line? And there again, many of you may be looking at this and going, no, I have all these metrics in line, and that's great if you do. What we want to look at is if some of these things are maybe out of line a little bit, what's that effect? And so I don't ever look for these like, hey, this one thing is going to, double my income. It's more, what are the incremental small things that you might be able to make changes, and how that will affect your bottom line. So I'm just going to walk through a couple things. Now, at the very top there, I like to start with, if I'm doing a forecast with somebody, it's, what's that maximum capacity that you could have? And in this case, in this restaurant, what's the maximum number of customers that they could have? I'm sorry, I got to hide something here so I can see what I'm looking at. So what's the maximum number of capacity of sales per hour? And so in this case, I said, it's 50 sales that we're going to make in an hour, which is typically, in this case, it's not a number that we're ever going to reach, but it allows us to either forecast, or in the case of past, we can look at, what did happen in that month. So I just like to do the math and kind of break it down. So in this case, we're saying, hey, we could do 50 sales in a month. We're open 12 hours a day. So the maximum number of sales that we can make in a day would be 600. We're open 30 days in a month. And so we've got this number of sales. And then that next line that says percent max capacity projected, there again, if I'm doing a forecast, in this case, I'm saying, well, I'm only going to achieve 12% of that goal. Now, maybe this is a lower month for me. I'm seasonal. So, maybe the next month it's going to be 14%. The next month it's going to be 18%. So this allows for a forecasting method, and then creates that key metric for us that as we go past this forecast and we start producing actuals, what did we actually do? So if you do the math and you keep going down, we're just saying, hey, in this scenario, we're going to do 72 sales in a day, 6 sales per hour. And then our other key metrics would be, I've got it highlighted here, what's your average ticket price? In ticket meaning kind of a person, so if a table of 4 comes down, they're going to spend $42. But, if your point of sale system has good data in it, you should be able to create some of these key metrics on what's your average revenue per sale. Because in this case, we're saying we're going to do 2,160 sales in a month at $10.50 per sale. And then it's going to create that revenue of $22,680. Now, that first metric we're going to look at is this cost of goods. So in this case, it's 34%. In this scenario, we're saying, hey, our food cost or our cost of goods is 34%. And then as we go down, I just kind of plugged in some numbers for these different expenses. There again, I'm not going to hit on these at individual lines. One thing, we do have an officer's salary in here. So we're saying, hey, every month, me as the owner, I'm going to write myself a check for $2,500. I'm going to pay myself. My payroll is going to be $6,350 or 28% of my revenue. So in this scenario at the bottom, we're profitable. $2,584. I've paid myself, and then I'm still profitable. So some people might look at that and say, hey, that's okay. That's a good thing. Others might say, no, we need to raise that number a little bit. So now let's start looking at some of the what ifs. And the first one we're going to do is cost of goods. And so we're going to get a similar view of cost of goods. So everything here at the top remains the same. But now we say, hey, what if we lower that cost of goods to 31%? In typical restaurant, you want to be around that 30%, depending on what type of restaurant you are. If you're up in that 40% range, you're typically asking for some trouble. So, if we lowered that down from 34% to 31%, then your bottom line goes up to $3,264. So you're looking at almost $700 just in net bottom line profit. Just because I did a better job with my cost of goods. And those things are process things, the way I look at it. And many years ago, I was in the restaurant bar business. So, it's things like, reducing waste, smart buying, is there ability for me to buy things in bulk? And there again, we're looking for incremental savings. Maintain those consistent serving sizes. And so that comes down to training your people and trying to be as consistent as you can and just doing some, really thinking about that cost of goods a little bit. And then there's things like, theft, giveaways, that's very common, especially in a bar business would be, giving away your buddy, free drinks, that kind of thing. And then, stealing, unfortunately, it is something that happens. So just, being more cognizant of some of those things. And there again, you're maybe looking at me and going, yeah, I do all those things. And that's great if you do. But if we can look for some incremental growth or improvements, that's going to help yourself. Now, if you're not in the restaurant business, let's say you're an electrician or a contractor or you're an auto mechanic, you're not going to have that much into kind of the cost of goods part of it. Although you're going to have some, if I'm an electrician, I'm going to buy my wire and my things, and I'm going to mark that up a little bit. So just, looking at what that markup could be, can you do some bulk buying? Can you partner with another business to, just do a little bit, get yourself a little bit more bottom line and just take another little step in trying to improve those things. The next one we'll look at would be pricing. We talked about that a little bit. And, as I said, right now, prices are going up. There's no doubt about it. There's inflation. Super hard thing to do for people to raise prices. And I can relate to that. Our customer is going to go away from me. Am I going to make them mad? It's just a hard thing to do. The one thing that I do recommend is, it's better to do some incremental price increases than to get to a point where you say, oh boy, now I got to, we were at $10.50 for an average ticket. Now I got to raise it by $1, $1.50. That's going to be more, people are going to notice that more than they might an incremental change. So in this scenario, I did it up just a little less than 5%, essentially went up 50 cents on the average price of a ticket. Our cost of goods is now down to 31%. And there you can see that bottom line, that operating income just grows just a little bit more, up to 36.11. So I guess, I would say, take a look and see what your competitors are doing. Try to be incremental with this pricing increase and just realize it's just, unfortunately, there's something that's out there right now. And until inflation kind of comes around a little bit, it's something that you have to deal with. And there again, I'll throw this, pitch out there too, excuse me, for the SBDC. If you want to kick some of this stuff around with one of our consultants, we're always willing to look at that and, kind of help you vet that out and see what decision might be best for you. Amy, we got any questions coming in out there? Be cognizant of that.
No questions yet.
Okay. All right. All right, next one, payroll. So in most businesses, payroll is another one of those key metrics that is something that you need to watch really closely. Now, it's a little bit of a weird deal with labor, right? We're having a hard time hiring people in general, but just if we look beyond that, just at how we manage our payroll and how we manage our labor. And there again, it's just looking at a little more detail into, how you're using your resources and things that you might be able to do to make things more efficient and add to that bottom line for yourself. So in this case, and there again, back to this industry guidance, there is guidance for your type of an industry of where your payroll should be. Now, that's not a hard and fast rule because there are variables in everyone's business, but there is guidance. So in this case, we said, hey, what if we go down, we're able to lower our payroll cost down to 26% from 28%. And there you can see that's another nice, little over $500 a month in net profit gain. So it's just another one of those little incremental things to think about. And then, it comes down to, your shifts. How well are you managing those shifts, and are you utilizing people? You don't want people standing around. You want to have people productive as much as you can. Can you retrain people so that when they are essentially, standing around, there's no customers, other things that they can be doing so that you are getting some utilization on them. And then, you as an owner, is there a way for you to take on more? Because if you do some of this retraining, are you able to kind of fill in and help lower some of those labor costs? And this is an easy one for me to say to you, but it's not always so easy to make happen. All right. Now, last one not the last one, I'm sorry, but when we get into some of these variable expenses, in many cases, they're pretty fixed. I mean, there's not a lot you can do about insurance. I mean, you can go out and shop some out, but for the most part, a lot of your utilities and things like that, you're not going to find a whole lot. One line that I did pick out is the advertising line. And there again, there's guidance on how much you might spend on advertising and what that method might be. And so in this case, we were at 2.5% of revenue, and we lowered it down to 2% of revenue, which then found us, a little bit more on that bottom line. So now we go up to $4,262. Now, there again, it's easy to say, I'm just not going to spend as much, but I would look at more of, how are you spending those marketing dollars? And I'm going to give a shout out to, a couple of our consultants that they do marketing and they're great at it. So Deb and Shannon both, they spend a lot of their day, in digital marketing. They're experts in that area. So, if you're someone that's been doing, maybe doing a little more traditional marketing, putting ads in the newspaper and things like that. And I'm not going to say those things are bad. But what I would say is, it might be worth your time to sit down with one of those two and just kind of go through your plan. Where are you spending your money? Can you get a little bit more involved in digital marketing? And what does that mean? I mean, that's a pretty broad term, digital marketing. But there may be a way that you can actually reduce some of those advertising dollars and be a little more effective with it. I always tell people, if you can find a way to measure those dollars, what's the impact of those dollars? That's a huge deal. And that's one of the benefits of some of the digital tools out there. And not that I'm hawking digital marketing, but it tends to be, bang for the buck. I still feel like it's a good bang for your buck. And then the last one is, sales. Easy for me to say, oh, just sell more, get some more customers, right? But, we kind of look at, what's the impact? So in this case, if we said, hey, rather than having 72 sales a day, we're going to go up to 78. So we're going to, essentially add a half a sale per hour. kind of up in this area, just kind of that simple math. Now we've raised our average ticket price to 11. We've lowered our cost of goods. We've lowered our advertising a little bit. And now our bottom line is over close to $5,000. So, just with these little incremental changes, we've essentially doubled your income. And this kind of comes back, can be marketing special offers, but what's a way to expand that customer base of yours? And there again, easy for me to say, but I think it would, to sit down with somebody, it might help to just kind of look at, who are your customers, and what are some of the ways that we maybe can go out and gain a few more customers. And that's a much deeper discussion than we have time for today. But just some thoughts there again, hopefully will spur a little bit of thought from you on things that you maybe can look at. And a piece of this, and I didn't say this in the beginning, would be, having access to good data is kind of crucial in this sense. So if you have, if your accounting system, maybe you have QuickBooks Online or something, but if you're doing a good job of really tracking your data, then it allows you to do some of this analysis. It's a little bit harder if you don't have good data, if you don't know what your cost of goods is. So that would be something to look at, as if you say, no, I haven't done a good job with my books. I kind of know what's coming in, but I really can't answer some of these questions. That would be a good consideration that I think for everybody is to be able to, put those tools in place so you can at least try to answer some of these questions. So that kind of wraps up that section of the is, if you will, and what some of these incremental changes could be. Excuse me. Amy, anything out there that I?
No questions. You must be explaining it really well, Bill, because we don't have any questions.
Yeah, so. Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay, so this next section is, maybe kind of think of it as a brainstorming, and this is a little more, labor shortage specific thing. And there again, I don't have any silver bullets for you out there, but, maybe we can generate some thoughts here on things or mitigations, adaptions to your business that you can make, your products and services that might help you, work with, fewer people and not have to rely so much on that, revolving door, if it will, or just the fact that you can't hire anybody, so that, what your actual products and services that are offered, so in the case of the restaurant, maybe you look at skinning up your menu a little bit. For those of you that have gone through a drive-through, during COVID, I think one of the things that I've noticed is that some of these drive-throughs, they've taken their menus and they've really skinning them down a lot, which allows them to kind of produce their product faster and get it out the door faster with less labor. And so that would be the goal in something like this, is just to look at it and see, is there that opportunity? Do I have this real broad menu of services, or in the case of a restaurant, products that I'm serving, where, hey, if I kind of eliminate this product segment, does that allow me to take a person out of my mix, so to speak, because I can't hire them? And that would go for other businesses as well. Just looking at those services that you offer and how you're offering them, and if there's a way to adapt those so that you can operate with less labor. So those are some of the first things that I would look at. Which of your products are most profitable? Then again, as you kind of look at these products, and can I skinning it up? Really do an evaluation on some of your products and services that you're offering, and which ones are more profitable. And if I'm going to slim it down just because I don't have the time, which products might those be? Which ones are in most demand? Which ones do you get the most bang for your buck from? If you're a tradesman, excuse me, there may be a variety of things that you can do as as a contractor. But some you may just say, I'm going to draw the line on these because they eat up a lot of my time. They're not as profitable for me. They don't allow me to get to that next job that's more profitable for me. Unfortunately, that's kind of the reality out there for anybody that's, tried to hire someone to pour concrete or put siding on or a roof or that kind of thing. I think you're probably seeing that. It's tough to find those people. They have skills, and they want to get paid for it, which they should. And so if you are that person, how are you going to make yourself, most efficient with your time? And the next one is kind of a little bit, it kind of goes backward to labor, but, in some cases, are there products and services that you can add? So in the case of the restaurant scenario, can I do a little catering? Can I do something where I don't need to add labor? Catering is one that I think of that's a possibility. In downtime, can I be cooking? To be able to do an event or something out on the side. So just a way to think about it is, as I'm out there working, and there again, kind of out in the field, if I think of a tradesman, are there some other arrows that I can put in my quiver? As long as I'm out there talking to customers, are there other things that make sense that aren't going to utilize more labor that I can sell them? Because essentially when you're out in the field, you want to maximize your earning potential when you're with those customers or when you're on your way to those customers. So just think about things that you might be able to add that say, it really isn't going to take me any more time, but I could sell this to this customer, provide this service to this customer, and it could be a win-win as well. So next one, adapting your hours of delivery. And I think that everyone has seen this one on the door of your favorite restaurant. We're not going to be open on certain days. In this case, right now, I think it's more typical. We're just not going to be open on certain hours. And I think that's just kind of a reality, especially in that food service business. If you're serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you're probably not real busy between 10 and 11:30, and you're not real busy between 1 and 4 type deal. Those are kind of those windows. So you've got your hours to make hay, so to speak. And, you may have to look at, directly into labor does it make sense for me, for instance, not to be open for breakfast or not to be open for dinner? I mean, there are lots of variables that go into a decision like that. But I guess if I'm in your shoes and I'm running into those issues with finding people to work my shifts, I'm going to try to do some analysis on those different segments of my business. Where are most of my customers coming in? Which is the most profitable time of the day for me? And is it possible for me to kind of trim back a little bit to allow me to continue to operate? Hard things to do, but there again, kind of a reality. You want to, still be able to deliver good products, but you just need to slim it back a little bit. And then, a big one, and this is just a brainstorming, is, do you completely change the product and service that you're offering? There are, if you have this asset, you've got this building and this kitchen or this building and this workshop and things, do you need to completely shift your offerings? Usually to me, that's more, driven by changes in technology and just that certain products and services are just, going to kind of slowly leave us just because of like I say, technology. But just kind of a big what if of just kind of looking at it. Is there something else that I can do, with this asset that I have to make money that fits? I mean, I think some of you probably have, saw during COVID, places that, maybe they made vodka for a living and they started making hand sanitizer. Now, I don't think they quit making vodka, but they kind of changed their whole model. They kind of thought out of the box a little bit and said, oh, we have the skill set, we have the tools, we have what it takes to make this other product, which maybe could lead to another shift. It's possible. I rather doubt that those companies that did that with hand sanitizer now are, strictly hand sanitizer businesses, but that's an example where they looked at what they had and shifted. So some things just to think about. And there again, you can kick them around with someone at our office and just see which ones, might be viable, but put that thinking cap on and, make some notes and, see what might be possible. The next one is I term it geographical. And this one, I think about, people that are out, they're out in a truck or they're doing a route, but they have customers where they're driving. Maybe it's a lawn care business. It could be an electrician. Typically, it would be, those ones where you're doing kind of continuous business with clients. And sometimes I've had discussions with a client and they'll say, we'll draw a little map of where their clients are at, and they've kind of got them in a circle that's maybe in a 10-mile radius or something. And then all of a sudden they've got this one client that's 50 miles away, but they don't have anything in between. So, really looking at, what does that route look like for you? And is it smart to have that client 50 miles away? Now, I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying, let's evaluate that and see if that is a good use of your time. Because typically when you're driving somewhere, you're not making money. And so, how do you keep yourself utilized and billable? The term is billable, I guess. And I talk to, when I work, like I say, with tradesmen, I say, well, how much time can you be billable? When you're behind the windshield, you typically are not. Now, sometimes you can have that hourly or that mileage rate where you are charging for something like that, but just kind of really look at your route. And I'm going to jump down to that third one. It segues a little bit better, but target your sales and marketing in those specific geographical areas. This would mean, I've got that ball, that 10-mile radius where I've got those clients, and then I've got one that's 50 miles away. Can I target my plan to find 3 more clients between my core and that one that's 50 miles away? Well, then that makes that 50-mile trip out there more profitable if I've got clients along the way. So not necessarily extending the big ball, but trying to fill in those gaps so that you can be making money along the way and something like that. And then I'm kind of jumping back to that bullet point number 2, carefully planning your jobs. And there again, this one to me applies more to tradesmen. If you're a painter and you're doing sheetrock and taping and texturing, so if you go and paint something in the morning, can you go to somewhere that's very close and do another job while that paint is drying or while that texture is drying, so you can come back? I've seen some tradesmen they're great at it. And I tend to pay attention to that kind of stuff. Concrete companies, when they are very specific about, they have certain people there at this time and they know exactly where they're going to go. Hopefully where they're going to go is in close proximity, so you don't have that dead time. But there again, I've seen some that just they're not good with that. They don't have it planned out really well of how they can really, really leverage their time during the day. Watching paint dry, you don't make a lot of money, I guess would be the point. And there again, that just kind of takes some time to really think about those jobs as they come and how you can tie them together. And we'll get into the line. This is my last slide. Oh no, second to last slide. Changing your footprint, I call this. So, there again, this is back to your asset that you have, which in many cases is your building and your land. Is it viable for you to think about, leasing out a portion of your space? Is there another business that could maybe help drive your business and vice versa that makes sense? And do you have the space for it? Now, there are lots of different variables in there that could say, no, that just doesn't work, or it does work. If I spent a little bit of money, I could create this 500 square feet that I could lease out to somebody. And so then you've got some cash flow, you're using all the space that you have. And maybe it's just, you doing a better job of using the space you have and freeing some of that up. But there are opportunities for that. I mean, there are, some real small businesses, when they get going, they can't afford a big space. They just need a space. Now it's got to be the right kind of space, but there can be opportunity for things like that. So just kind of looking at your footprint and what that means. Next one, reducing your lease or rent expenses. This might be, if you've got say a storage unit or something else that you're using, you're renting, you've got another expenditure to store things or have things, is there a way for you to kind of tighten those things up and just be better at using that space? I'll run into people that have got this big storage area and they're paying for it every month, but it really doesn't offer them a lot of value. It's got a lot of junk in it. So you can run into some of those things as well. Next one, moving locations, is that an option? And there again, these are all just kind of out there options for you, and some are just plain are not viable. But in some cases, it makes sense to think about, does it make sense for me to move to a different place? And one, to save money, two, to be in just a better location for gathering customers. Can be a variety of reasons where you might consider that. And that last one is kind of an out there one, but kind of going on wheels. And I've seen a number of people get really, really creative with their skill or what they serve, and taking it out of a brick and mortar. And food trucks is an example. Obviously, a much cheaper expense to be able to deliver your product. Some tradesmen, I've worked with a few mechanics where, rather than having a location where people bring to them, they go out and see their customers. And I've had a couple that have been really, really successful with something like that, that are considerations as well. But it's got to be the right type of business for sure. Let's see here. And then the last one, resources to deliver. So adapting your delivery method. And this one would be, if we talk about the food service business for one, you've got ones where you walk in and you've got that full service, right? Someone comes and waits on you. That's a resource. So if you are forced into that, or if it makes sense to your model, it could be that you go to a walk-up type method. There again, it may not fit, but things to think about on how you change the way you deliver your products and services without having the people. And I've seen people that have just decided, I'm just not going to operate with employees. Maybe they were tradesmen and they had 3 trucks and they decided, I'm just going to go back and just do it by myself. Just because I can't get the people. If I do get them, then they leave. So it's kind of it can be a double-edged sword in some cases. So you have some people that just shrink back, and you can still do very well. But there again, so dependent on what it is that you're typically doing. Taking on a partner is one, which does not mean necessarily that you go 50-50 with somebody. But I've had some clients that have had some good success with bringing someone in, maybe it's a 10% of your operation. And it's amazing how when someone is an owner, whether it's large or small, how they can, change the way that they impact your business, because now they're an owner. And so, they have a little more skin in the game. Those things can be created where maybe a little bit of cash comes into the current owner. And in the long term, you might say, I'm giving up a little bit. but that partner then is less likely to leave is one of the things. Is you're maybe doing a little bit to kind of lock in that labor force. And there again, it could just be one person, maybe it's two people, but and you know, it's got to fit right. But I have some examples of friends and people I've worked with where that has worked really, really well. And they've taken a good resource and made them really sticky, so to speak. You know, so rather than that really good employee going off and starting their own thing or getting offered a different job, they are now a little more sticky because they're a part of it. But there again, it's got to be the right circumstance and the right person, and you got to be able to make it work. Next one is kind of along that same line is, you know, elevate and train a current employee. You know, give them, you know, if they're a good employee, you know, give them a little bit more responsibility, maybe pay them a little bit more. You know, I'm always a proponent of you know, maybe giving a little bit more to someone that it's really important for you to keep, you know, rather than nickel diming somebody and them thinking, I can go across the street or I can go to somebody else or go start my own thing. So there again, you know, you give someone a little more responsibility and elevate them up your train, they're going to be a little more sticky for you and less likely to leave. And then that very last one, and this would have to make, you know, it's got to be pretty special, but, you know, outsourcing some of your operations. You know, is there a way for you to hire someone or contract with someone to do a portion of what it is that you deliver? And there again, that could be in the form of a tradesman or somebody where, you know, if you're a contractor, you may say, I've always, you know, I've done everything, but now I'm not going to be a roofer. I'm gonna outsource the roofing, or I'm going to outsource the sheetrocking portion. And so you hone in on that thing that you're good at, your crew is good at. It's a smaller crew. I'm going to establish a relationship with another company that just does sheetrocking, for instance. And there again, that can be a win-win as well, because you're guaranteeing them some business. They're freeing you up to kind of do what you're really good at and be more efficient with your time. So with that, there again, I want to just throw out some food for thought, some brainstorming, things that we can think about. And so I will open it up now. And Amy, I don't know if any questions are come in, but I'll give that last kind of pitch for, you know, if there are things that you want to talk about, and it can be large or small, you know, feel free to engage us, because we are sure willing to talk with you with anything about your business to try to help you stay successful and get better. Yeah. Amy?
I think that's great. I don't see any questions, so but I have so many thoughts, Bill, and I'm really excited about where this webinar is fitting in this series, because we had Deb come and talk to us about lots of quick ideas you can do right now. Shannon last time spoke to us about automation, and I listened to what you talked about today about tightening up those shifts, finding something to do while the paint is drying, all sorts of things. And I think those automated reservations on your website, you know, there are a lot of things you can do to automate that are actually quite simple, that would help tighten up all the things that you talked about and create efficiencies, just like you talked about, Bill. When you talked about, and when you were talking about getting your business on wheels, it made me think about a business that was a Minnesota success story last year. And I think it might have been in Mankato in Minnesota. I don't remember, but there was a brick and mortar halal grocery store owner. She was having a hard time paying for everything, and it wasn't bringing enough people in. So she switched to a grocery delivery, and she had a van, she had it stocked with things, and she brought your halal groceries to you where you were. And it was a great idea. So there are other ways that you can change your delivery method, like you said, that can create new efficiencies for you and reduce those costs.
Yeah, that's a great point, Amy. And so I think the tip there is for people that, you know, you maybe don't think that could work for you, but, you know, maybe with kicking it around with somebody, there are options. So there again, it's just kind of thinking about things that just you maybe don't think make sense, but maybe they do, you know,
Yeah.
thinking there again, out of the box, not to use that, you know, beat that dead horse, but
Yeah.
the way to think about it.
Yep. So I'm excited. Thank you very much, Bill. And if nobody else has any questions, we could probably wrap up.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Thank you. Join us for our next,
Worth your time.
join us for our next one, our webinar on retention with Dr. Shantarius Akins. I think it's going to be great. Nick says thanks. Thank you, Nick, for joining us. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. And we will get the PDF out to you, the slide deck, and share this recording. And please fill out the survey that I sent to you today. Anything else, Bill, that we should know?
No, I think that's good.
Okay. Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone.
Have a good day.
Bye-bye.